Question number 1. What is your testimony?
What is my testimony? Okay. Well, I am going to start with a psalm because this psalm that I'm going to read really is my testimony. I mean, that is what my testimony is. So I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read it in the Passion Translation, which is really, it's a new translation, and it's only New Testament and Psalms, but it is really good. Anyway, so this is my testimony. Psalm 116. I am passionately in love with God because He listens to me. He hears my prayers and He answers them. As long as I live, I'll keep praying to Him, for He stooped down to hear my heart's cry. Death once stared me in the face, and I was close to slipping into its dark shadows. I was terrified and overcome with sorrow. I cried out to the Lord, "Come and save me." He was so kind, so gracious to me. Because of His passion toward me, He made everything right and He restored me. So I've learned from experience that God protects the childlike and the humble ones. For I was broken and brought low, but He answered me and He came to my rescue. Now I can say to myself and to all, relax and be confident, be fully serene, for the Lord rewards fully those who simply trust in Him. He rescued my soul from death's fear, and He dried my eyes of many tears. So this is my testimony. I grew up in an alcoholic home, so both my mom and my dad. And you guys may not know what that looks like, but it's extremely, it is so unstable. You never know from day to day. I never knew when I walked in the door what was going to happen. So it was really an unstable environment. We occasionally went to church once in a blue moon. Most often we went bowling on Sundays. But sometimes we would go to church, especially holidays. And my home was this crazy place where when my dad was kind of a happy alcoholic, but my mom was an angry alcoholic. So when I would come home, if no one was drinking, very warm, loving, affectionate, I'm so glad you're here, I love you so much. But if there was drinking, then it would be, I hate you, I wish you'd never been born, why are you here? So it was very up and down, back and forth. So I would stand at the door when I would come home, and I would wonder, what am I going to find on the other side of the door? It was so chaotic, and my parents fought with one another. They really fought with one another. They were physically abusive toward one another, never toward us kids, which that's a gift from the Lord. To grow up in a home that's so volatile and to never have, to have been ever hurt in some of the things that would happen. The police would come to the door because the neighbors had called. The ambulance would come to get whoever was hurt. It was really wild. I remember one time in particular that my parents were fighting, and I was trying to get them to stop. Please stop, please stop, please stop. And they weren't listening. So I came up with this great plan. I was probably, maybe 9 or 10. And I'll run away, and then they'll notice I'm gone. They'll stop fighting, and they'll come and find me. So I went up to the schoolyard, which was about 6 blocks away, and I sat on the swing, and I swang and swang, waiting for this perfect plan. Well, it got dark, no one came, and I was afraid, so I went back home. And they were still fighting. They didn't notice that I had gone. Now, maybe I was gone 10 minutes. To me, it seemed like forever. But the enemy planted a lie in my mind at that time, and I don't think it's an unusual lie, but it was that no one sees you, no one cares. You're invisible, no one sees you, and no one cares. And so because of that, I really suffered a lot from that, you know, just this mindset. Nobody sees me, nobody knows me, nobody cares about me. Well, when I was 12, my mother, like I said, drank a lot. And when I was 12, she stopped for a while, so we kind of had family dinner and all this. It was just so wonderful. But she came to me one morning before I left for school, and she said, "Give me those sleeping pills I gave you a couple months ago." Because she had given them to me and said, "Here, take these, you know, put them up, don't give them to me." And so she came and said, "You know, I want those pills." And I said, "Oh, I shouldn't do that." And she said, "Oh, no, it's okay. I haven't had anything to drink, you know, it's okay." And so, and she said, "You can trust me." So I gave them to her, and when I came home from school that day, she had been drinking heavily, she was staggering, and she came up to me, and she tried to put her arms around me, and I pushed her away. I said, I hate you," and I ran out the door and went up to a friend's house and pretended like everything was fine. Because see, when you grow up in a crazy household, you just pretend when you're out, when you're at school, when you're with your friends, you pretend like everything's okay, because you don't want anybody to know what's going on. So I was a really good pretender. So I went up to a friend's house, and I heard a siren. After a little bit, I went to my house, and my dad was home now, and he was shaking my mother, and he was throwing water in her face. Well, he said, "Did you talk to your mom when you came home?" I said, "Oh, she was drunk as usual." And the ambulance was coming to my house, and it was coming for my mom. And that was it. She died. And I was the very last one to ever speak to my mother. And the words I spoke to her were, "I hate you. I hate you." I was 12 at the time. So you can imagine the guilt that I felt, the way that I felt like, you know, this was all my fault. So now it's like I'm invisible and I'm responsible for my mom's death. So my dad doesn't know what to do, so he just kind of leaves me to take care of my two sisters. And so my dad's at the bar every night. I've got my two sisters, and I'm trying to, you know, just get through. But do you get the idea that I was a broken person? You know, I mean, I was just so broken. So, you know, I was very self-sufficient. I had to do a lot of things at a young age that most people didn't have to. So I was very self-sufficient. I thought I was super mature. And in high school, I started dating Pastor Greg. We started dating in high school, and well, the year before we started dating, he sat behind me in class, and I didn't talk to him. I talked to everybody always. My report cards always says, "Jan's a nice girl, but she needs to talk less." You know, that's kind of how it was. But I didn't talk to him because I thought I was creepy. And he was, what back in that day, this is being recorded, right? Oh, shoot. How about that? Anyway, and back in that day, I don't know what they call them now, but in that day, because that was, you know, like ages ago, like almost half a century, we called them hoods. That meant he was not a good guy. He was out partying all the time. He was out drinking all the time. He was just this wild guy. And so I was like, yeah. But senior year, he sat by me in another class and he kept butting into a conversation I was having with somebody else, and I kind of ended up deciding I liked him. So we started dating and we got married. We decided on a Wednesday to get married, got married the next Thursday when we were 18. Yeah, really. See how mature I was? So anyway, but he was so wonderful, and we were so happy, and I was going to have a happy life. It was going to be so wonderful, and now all that bad stuff is behind me, and I've got this little perfect husband. I have a job I like, and everything is going to be sunshine and roses forever. Do you see a problem with this? Well, it was for a long time. For a long time, it really was sunshine and roses. Pastor Craig and I were wildly happy in spite of the fact that we decided, and got married in less than 5 days. We were so happy, and we were just, and people would say, oh, you guys are so cute, and all this kind of thing. But then Pastor Craig got out of school. He was in the Navy, he went to school, and he got a job. Well, what I didn't realize was he's like this super duper workaholic. So our happy little life, now he's working all the time. We have a child, our first child. We've been married 6 years. We have our first child. That's hard. It's an adjustment. So we've got that adjustment. He's working all the time. And then I had an older brother who was always in a lot of trouble. He just was always in trouble with the law. He was a Hell's Angel. He wasn't nice. Anyway, he was in jail, and he called me, and he said, help me. No. Before this happened, before he was in jail, he told my 2 younger sisters that they had ruined my life because I had to take care of them. So I called up this older brother, and I really reamed him. I just got so angry with him, and I was so upset that he would say this to my sisters, because they were, crying, and we're sorry you had to take care of us, and we ruined your life, and all this. So I call my brother, I yell at him, I tell him, really bad stuff. I didn't know the word. It was really bad stuff. Well, so that's the last time I talked to my brother. He had been visiting in town. He went back to California, where he was from. Didn't talk to him again until I get a call from him when he is in jail. He says, help me. I'm in jail. I don't know why. I said, let me talk to someone, and no one would talk to me. So I'm trying to figure out, where are you in jail? What have you done? All of this sort of thing. And the next day I get a call, and he had taken his own life, and he had hung himself in jail. Last time I talked to him, I yelled at him, called him names. Are you seeing a theme here? Be careful what you say. You never know. Anyway, so that was hard. But he was a very violent person, and he was always in trouble with the law, in and out of prison, super scary. If you would have run into him in an alley, you would have freaked out. So in my thinking, I do not know the Lord, so I'm thinking, oh good, at least he's not going to hurt anybody, and he's at peace. Because see, I did not understand that there's a life after this. I did not understand that. Well, a year later, my dad died of cancer. I was 22 at the time. I was close to my dad. He had remarried, he quit drinking, and I was super close to him. And he died of cancer, and he died very quickly. So now I'm really depressed. So this happy little marriage and this perfect little life is unraveling. I'm so sad, I'm so depressed that Pastor Craig comes to me on Christmas Eve, and he says, I don't love you anymore, you're not fun. I don't want to be married. So that was really, really, really hard. So at that point, I began thinking, I began thinking, somehow there must be a God. There must be a God that I can somehow connect with, because I'm so over my head. Everybody I love either rejects me or they die. I'm so broken. I'm so broken. And so I went to a church in town. I said, I need to know God. I need to connect with Him. And the pastor told me to take up needlepoint. He told me to exercise and something else. And so I literally went to Hobby Lobby and joined a craft class. I mean, how sad is that? How sad. And then I went to a gym and I joined a gym. I did, and I thought, I'm not finding God in these. I mean, I had a great orange and yellow and green turtle that I needlepointed, but, you know, it was the 70s. But anyway, the real 70s, not these pretend 70s that we have right now. So anyway, I thought, I can't find God. I can't find Him. So I went to another church, talked to the pastor. My husband wants a divorce. My heart is broken. I think somehow I need to connect with God. And he said, well, you've been married 8 years, and marriages usually only last 7, so you've got a whole another year. So just let him go and find someone else. Oh. And I thought, I'm serious. And I thought, that can't be right. I mean, that doesn't sound right to you. Does that sound right? No. He didn't offer, you know, I mean, it just, so. Anyway, I'm having struggles here. I mean, I'm thinking, I need to know God. So I buy a book at the grocery store. I mean, and it actually had better advice. And it was How to Win Over Depression, and it was a Christian book. And it had a little picture of a throne, and it said, and it had a cross on the top of the, you know, a throne by, you know, a big seat thing. And then it had a cross. And so it's like the whole idea, Jesus is supposed to be on the throne. And I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yep, that's good. That's what I want. So I thought, nothing happened, and so I thought, I should pray. Good idea. I mean, after all this, wouldn't it be good to pray? So I got a book of prayers, and I would go into my bedroom, and I would read these prayers out loud. I did not know that you could just talk to the Lord. Although I had promised Him many things through the years when things were crazy, I'd say, if you'll just make my parents stop fighting, I'll go to church every day, or, you know, something like that. But anyway. So I would go into my bedroom and I would read these prayers out loud. I would just read them out loud. I didn't know just to talk to Him, but I thought I should somehow do this. And then I thought I should read the Bible. I think that's a good idea. I thought it was. And we had some drinking buddies that had given us a Bible for Christmas. So I actually had one in the house. I am dead serious. Yeah, so they gave us a Bible for Christmas. And
probably a regift.
you know what? I never thought of it, but I bet you're right. Yeah, it was a really kind of odd gift. But anyway, so I began to read in Ecclesiastes. Those of you who do not know, Ecclesiastes is like the biggest bummer ever. Lord, I'm sorry, it ends well, but I didn't get to the end. And part of what Ecclesiastes says, all is lost, all is vanity, there is no hope, you live a short time on the earth and then you're gone. And I'm thinking, it is worse than I thought. It is so much worse than I thought. So here I am, and you know, so Craig's leaving, I'm depressed, I'm heartbroken, I'm trying to find God, I can't find Him, and so I decide, you know what, it's time to cash it in. It is just time. I can't do this anymore, and the only thing I see in the future is more misery and more heartache. And now remember, to me, death was you just go to sleep. You just go to sleep and then that's it. There's no afterlife, there's no heaven, there's no hell. You go to sleep. And it was kind of like my ace in the hole, and if things get bad enough, that's my answer. Now the enemy was involved because he would all the time, I would hear, you just need to take your own life. You just need to get out of here. Nobody cares. Nobody notices. Nobody pays attention. All you have to look forward to is loss and hopelessness. And so it made sense. So I went into my bedroom to take my own life. My thought was, Craig's gonna leave. He'll get married again. We were young. He'll get married again. He'll take our daughter Wendy and she'll have a nice home. But me, I am damaged goods. I am broken. I am, it's my fault. My mother's gone. I didn't help my brother. I'm just no good. I'm just no good. So I went in to take my own life. I sat down by the side of the bed and I said, oh God, help me. Not expecting anything because remember, I've been reading the Bible, Ecclesiastes. I've gone to churches who's told me to exercise. I've read prayers out loud in my bedroom. And do you know? At that moment, he made himself real to me. In an instant, I cannot explain it. I did not do Step Up to Life. I did not know the four spiritual laws. I had never heard the word salvation, repentance, any of those things. But I knew that God was real. I knew that Jesus loved me, that he had died on the cross, and that he loved me. I've gone to church on Easter, here and there. And I knew all of those things. I knew him. I didn't just know him. I knew it. I was so excited. I could hardly believe it. I came out of that bedroom and went to find that Bible. And thank the Lord, I started reading in the New Testament. And I was reading, it was like, oh my word. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Absolutely everything I read was new to me. Everything that I read, that he loved me, that he died for me, that I was a new creature, I was a new person in him. It was all real and true. I used to run my life by watching soap operas. It's kind of like, okay, I'll dust between these two, and then I'll, and the next day after this happened, I went and I thought, oh, I shouldn't watch soap operas. Those are just full of garbage. I don't want to do that. I called up a relative to yell at them because I had a really bad temper. And so I called up a relative to yell at them. I picked up the phone and I thought, oh, wait a second. I just read, I'm a new creature. I don't have to do this. I'm a new creation. Hung up the phone. To tell you, this was so incredible to me. I could not get enough of the word. I would just read it and read it and read it and read it. And so I'm so excited about God. Well, here's Craig. He's leaving. He's still living at home because we can't afford for him to leave because we needed income tax money for him to get an apartment. So I have been begging, oh, please stay, please stay, please stay. I'll be happy. I'll do whatever, whatever, just stay. Well, now I've got the Lord. And I'm like, oh, well, I've got the Lord. Adios, see ya. It's okay, goodbye. And so he sees this change in me. And I am happy. I am so excited about the Lord. I can't even believe it. And the Lord begins to answer prayers. And I say to him, to Craig, oh, Jesus answered one of my prayers today. And he's like, you don't believe that stuff, do you? Jesus is just for weak people who need a crutch. And he got meaner. He got all the meaner because of this.
Craig did.
Yeah, he really did. He got nasty. Just really, it's hard to imagine. He's such a sweet guy. But anyway, he did get mean and nasty. And so he got uglier. And I just got happier. Because I just thought, I can't believe I know Jesus. Do you guys realize? What a privilege. You guys have grown up in church. You've heard about this all the time. And you know what? I think that's sometimes a detriment. Because it's kind of same old, oh yeah, Jesus, yeah, I'm going to try to be good, and I'm going to, yeah. You don't realize he's real. You don't realize the Holy Spirit actually gives life, you know, and so I was absolutely out of my head, excited all the time. And Craig would look for apartments on Sunday morning. He'd look for apartments, and I would say, oh wait, here's one. Did you see that one? That one's over, you know, I mean, I think that one's just over the hill there. And he's like, what is going on with her? What is her problem? So anyway, he decided not to leave because I was happy now. And see, that was his problem. You're not happy, I'm leaving you. Oh, you're happy? You lucky duck. I'm going to stay. And so he decided to stay. And in fact, he was really nice. And for Easter, he gave me a necklace that had the head of Jesus with a cross with a crown of thorns on it. It was really creepy. But he just thought that, I guess he thought for a religious person that would be nice. And so, yeah, so, and then he even went to, we didn't have a church, we got a mailer in the mailbox. And so he went with me to that church, and it was meeting in a school, and your grandparents were there at that church. Yeah, so then we didn't go again until Mother's Day. Mother's Day is going to do a big whoop for me and go to church again. And because we didn't have a church, I didn't go to church during this time. I just read my Bible all the time. And then he gave me a big coffee table, kind of like that book, Birdsong Bible, only it was a book about Jesus, about the movie Jesus. And that's what he gave me for Mother's Day, because another nice religious gift. So we went to the school, and then they gave a salvation message, and he got saved. And so that's why I said that psalm, that is my testimony. That is my testimony. I cried out to the Lord, and he heard me, and he rescued me from death and from darkness. And that was like a long time ago. But here's the thing. It wasn't just, oh, now I'm saved. That's awesome. But then he began to take the broken pieces, and he began to put me back together. He taught me that even though I was broken, he was faithful. And he would heal me, and he would teach me, and he would restore me, which means bring back to the place of departure. He taught me I'm not a victim. And how often do we feel the victim? You know, it's not fair. Oh, if only. If I had a family like them, if I had their money, if I had their house, if everybody had been nice to me, if I'd been popular in high school, if I had, you know what I'm saying? We play the victim. And I had a lot of things I could have been a victim about. I have a family member who is still a victim. They are quite old, and they are still a victim. And they are so full of bitterness, and they are so unhappy. And they have passed that on to their children and to their grandchildren. So I learned I wasn't a victim. I learned that forgiveness is an absolute must. There's no option but to forgive. If you don't forgive, you're going to be full of resentment. You're going to be full of bitterness. You're always going to feel like somebody owes you something. And you know what? They're not probably ever going to pay you what you think you deserve. If you don't forgive, it says over and over in Scripture, it says the Lord won't forgive you. If you're not going to forgive others, he's not going to forgive you. But we somehow feel like it's okay to hold on to unforgiveness, especially if it was unfair. So he taught me I absolutely have to forgive. There was a time God was asking me to forgive someone who ongoingly was offending me. You know, I mean, you have those things where, oh, they hurt my feelings once over there, and now that's kind of over. But you have people in your life who like hurt you a lot, and maybe they hurt you over and over and over. And so you feel justified in not forgiving, and you almost might feel, well, if I don't forgive them, that kind of protects me. Because if I forgive them, maybe that opens me up that they can hurt me again. So I'll kind of protect myself. And they don't deserve it because maybe they're really wrong. And so there was this situation who were saying, I want you to forgive this person. And the Lord, it's not fair. That is not fair. That is not fair. You know what they've done. You know what they do. You know what they always do. And I'm the innocent party here. I'm the one that has to forgive? That stinks. That stinks. And the Lord said, you know what? I don't want you to forgive for them. I want you to forgive for me because you've asked to be close to me. And that will get in the way. That'll be between me and between you. And you will not know me the way that you want to if you don't forgive. So you can hold on to that unforgiveness. You can hang on to it. But in order to take hold of me, you're going to have to let that drop. So your choice, hang on to the unforgiveness or put it down and hang on to me. And I thought it was a better idea to hang on to him. He taught me to love others even when they don't love me. Not everybody in your life's going to love you. I know it's hard to believe. You're so darling. Right? But not everybody's going to love you. They're not. But we're called to love others. And I have loved people who haven't loved me. With the Lord's help, there have been times like, Lord, this is a sacrifice. I'm doing this for you. Because I love you, I'm going to love this person. And when I love this person, I'm going to see your face, and Lord, I'm loving you. I'm loving you by loving this person. And I have seen some of those little stinkers actually turn around because people can't resist being loved. But see, we always want to wait until we're loved, and then we'll love back. But if we're the first to love, even when they don't love us, you'll see God do something in your life. Another thing he taught me was to hold on to what he says about me instead of what other people say about you. There have been a lot of people in my life who have said some really not nice things. There really are. And the Lord has said, don't believe the bad press other people give you. Or even the bad press you give yourself. Believe what I say about you, because that's what's true. Now remember, I grew up in a house where my mom would say, I hate you, I wish you'd never been born, why are you here? I had a marriage where at one point, I hate you, I don't want to be here. I had a brother who on my birthday would call me up and cuss me out on my birthday. Not nice. Not nice. But you know what? That's not what's true of me. What's true of me is what the Lord says about me. And I think if you can believe what the Lord says about you instead of what other people say. Another thing that he taught me is being thankful is a sacrifice, but it is so worth it. I think we forget to be thankful. I think it's so easy to whine and complain. I'm an expert whiner and complainer. I have that down pat. I can, but if we will be thankful, it changes our situation. A lot of times, I think today there's such an emphasis on the love of God, which I think is amazing. The Lord showing me that he loved me was the biggest transformation outside of my salvation that I've ever had, because it was my fault these things happened in my life, I was always trying really hard. You know what I mean? I was so sincere, but I was always trying hard and thought, if I do all the right things, then God will love me more. You know, we're in a performance-based society. If you perform, people like you or people are for you. If you don't perform, we're in this performance-based thing. And I tried so hard to perform. And when the Lord really ask the Lord to show you his love for you, it's not even something that you know in your head. You have to have him begin to show you that. And when you do, the fact that the Lord loves you, man, it is really something. But I think another thing about today, I think what happens is because there's this super emphasis on the love of God, which, like I said, was the most transforming thing for me, but there's such an emphasis on it, a little bit it's taken on this feel of, oh, you sweet little thing, God just loves you, you're his favorite, do what you want, live how you want, doesn't matter, he loves you. Does that, have you heard anything like that? Well, maybe not in that voice, but do you know what I'm saying? And that is, I mean, that is, the love of God is amazing. He is love. He can't be anything else but loving. But I think sometimes what we do is we try to believe those things about the love of God, but we put them on over all this yucky stuff that we have in our life, right? And then we just try to believe it over that. But in Colossians 3, it talks about the fact that we have to take some things off before we put some things on. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes we try to put on Jesus over all these dirty, nasty clothes. You know what I'm saying? We just try to. And so in Colossians 3, it says, since you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things, for you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. Put to death, therefore, and this is where he began to teach me. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature. Sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed, which is idolatry. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk like this. You used to walk like this. I used to walk like this. But rid yourself of such things as, and you've heard a little bit in my testimony, some of these things, anger, rage, malice, slander, talking about people behind their backs, filthy language, lying. You have taken those off with all of its practices, and you have put on a new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge of the image of the Creator. There is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised. Christ is all and in all. Those were things that were part of my life. All of those things, they were part of my life. And I had to say, even though he loved me and I knew he loved me and I was so excited and I so wanted to please him, but I had to begin to ask him, Lord, help me live out of your Holy Spirit and not according to the way I've always lived. And he will do that. We shouldn't belong to the Lord and love the Lord and have all of those things still apart. I mean, he will begin to work on those things. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with kindness, compassion, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with one another, forgive one another, and if you have anything against someone, forgive them, just like the Lord forgave you. And over all of these, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your heart, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach, admonish one another, singing to God with gratitude, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. I read that. I didn't know that. I read it and I thought, Lord, that's what I want. Lord, I want to be an offering to you. I want to. Life stinks sometimes. Sometimes it's hard. But Lord, when it's hard, can my responses bring honor to you? When people are mean to me, Lord, in my responses, can I bring honor to you? When things don't go the way I wanted, Lord, can I bring honor to you? And so I still, to this day, Lord, how do I love you today? In situations that I find myself in, some unpleasant, Lord, how do I represent you? How do I honor you? What can I say or do in this that would bring gladness to your heart? Because see, it's not about me, it's about him. It's not about me being happy, although I am really happy. But it's not about me being happy. It's about me loving you. Lord, teach me to love you. Teach me to love you with every fiber of my being. What does that look like? What's it look like today? What's it look like in this situation? And that's how I live my life now. Your heart. When I see you, I want it to be the biggest celebration ever. Because Lord, I love you. And you have rescued me. And so, Lord, how do I love you? And so I still ask myself that every day, Lord, what does it look like loving you today? Lord, where is it that my heart would have any unforgiveness towards someone? Lord, what is it that you would want me to do to express you to someone else? Those are questions that I every day ask myself. Lord, how do I love you today? What does that look like? So now you can, that's the end of my testimony. So if
Okay.
there are other questions.
Well,
said you
does
had
anybody
some.
have questions about that? We'll go.
No questions? Are you
Well,
serious?
usually it takes a few minutes.
Yeah. So were you you were the oldest in your family?
Well, I had my older brother who
brother,
was in
yeah.
jail, and then I had another brother, but he was 5 years older than I was, so he got married shortly after my mom died.
Oh,
So and then I had two younger sisters. They were 4 and 6 when my mom died.
wow.
So I just kind of took care of.
And you were 12?
I was 12, and my dad kind of just fell apart, and so he was just gone. He was just at the bar every night. So I was in charge. Yeah, it's scary. I've had to go tell my sisters many times, I'm so sorry, guys. I was really.
So
Jessica?
you used to teach, what was your job so throughout the years?
I taught at Lifegate Christian School, and I was the Bible teacher for 7th and 8th grade. And I had Laura in my class.
Oh,
Did you have anybody's
Did you
parents?
fail?
I'm not that old.
Did you have any of these?
I didn't have any of these guys, no.
Oh, yeah,
no
Rebecca.
siblings or anything?
No, no. But I was there for 11 years.
Not long.
Yep. I was, doing 7th and 8th grade.
What was the job you said that you loved when you first got married and everything was dandy?
Everything was dandy. I worked at a place called Western Electric, and I was an executive secretary. And so I
That's from where we're at the old Western Electric.
Uh-huh,
100%, yeah.
yep, and I
That's
loved.
where all across from United, where Walmart is and all that. That's
Yeah.
where. Well, actually, Kiewit's back there, the building's still there.
Yeah.
So you, grew up in Omaha.
I grew up in Omaha, yeah, and so did Craig. We went to the same grade school,
Which one is?
Belvedere. We went to the same middle school and the same high school. I do not remember him until middle school, and I thought,
That's so funny.
I know, isn't it? Now I'm wild about him.
What made you like him all of a sudden?
Well,
His car.
It was
it was not his car. He will say that. I liked him in spite of his car.
That's funny, cause you said you were talking to somebody and he kept interrupting
Do you know
you
who
and
I
you
was,
liked
you
him.
know who I was talking to was Cooley, Rick Cooley, Ron Cooley's younger brother. Ron Cooley used to be in, what's Bobby in? Manheim.
Oh.
Ron Cooley, I don't know if he still is, he used to be, but his younger brother. But, well, actually, let's see, Craig's brother, who was a year older than us, liked my best friend. My best friend and I worked at the same place. So after school, Craig and his brother would come and get me and my girlfriend and take us to work.
Oh.
So I kind of got to know him that way. But my girlfriend really liked Craig, not his brother. I didn't like either because I had a boyfriend that was away at college. But just in the course of kind of hanging out, I thought, oh gosh, he's really kind of cute.
Did you and your friend fight over it, kind of thing?
No,
Did
she
you know
started
she-
dating his cousin.
What?
She started dating his cousin. It was high school.
So did you have to write a Dear John letter to your
I
college
did, and
boyfriend?
he helped me. Craig helped me write the Dear John letter. Here's how I knew I was in love with Craig. For Valentine's Day, this boyfriend I had away at college came. I was a cheerleader in high school, and he came to surprise me on Valentine's Day, and he was at a basketball game. And so I'm doing my little woo-woo, and I see him, this boyfriend, in the audience, and I think, oh, what is he doing here? Because my friend and I were going to hang out with Craig and his brother, and I was so disappointed. I thought, oh gosh, now I got to go with my boyfriend. I can't go with Craig. And I thought, oh, I like Craig. So
Interesting.
yeah, so Craig helped me write a letter, and so we sent the letter, and then I got my senior picture back. I had given my boyfriend a big 8x10 senior picture, and he sent it back, and he said, give this to someone who cares. And so I sent back a letter and said, I did.
That's all it said. I did. I love it.
Anyway, so this guy lived in Omaha as well, and so he lived in the same area of town. So sometimes Craig and I would be out, and we would run into him, and you know they would race their cars and give each
Right.
other dirty looks. And I think Craig even spit his gum at him once.
And it hit his mouth.
So
or
what
something.
happened to him?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't like
Facebook stalk.
No.
like he's. We didn't have that back then, so I just
Yeah.
thought.
Oh, now.
No.
Well, in the bowling alley you went to on Sundays ended up being Waypoint, didn't it?
It did. The
Yeah.
bowling
Oh
alley.
my
Kelly's,
God.
yeah.
I used to go there all the time.
We went there
Oh,
too.
it's-
Oh,
And you know
I was
what,
so
girls?
sad when they turned into a church because I didn't know it was turned into a church. Like, what are they doing to this? And then
Oh.
if you,
But see, here's the thing about, wait, I was there, and on Friday nights we went there too. My dad was in a bowling league after he married my stepmother, and the whole big Italian family was there and everything. But when my dad was drinking a lot, we'd go to that bowling alley on Friday night, and he would be swerving all over the road, and I'm thinking I'm gonna die on the way home. So I would always throw up these frantic prayers to the Lord. If you just get me home alive, I'll be good. I'll never tell another lie. Or, you know, every week I would have a new bargaining something, you know. And anyway, I went to Waypoint when my granddaughter Audrey was baptized. She was baptized at Waypoint. My son Ben was doing it, baptizing her, and I sat in that sanctuary and I thought, Lord, you knew when I was a young girl and I was here and there was the wildness and the craziness, and this was part of my every week thing being in this place, and now here I am, and it's all different. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Mm.
Oh,
that was so wonderful.
it was really awesome. Yeah.
Okay, So, we don't have time for all three of the other ones.
Read all
She
three and
kinda-
she can
she
pick
kinda-
which
Well,
one.
you kind of answered some of them anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what is the biggest spiritual lesson that you've learned after you gave your testimony? You kind of
Right.
went through a
Uh-huh.
lot of that. And
Right.
what do you wish that you would have known as a younger Christian that you know now?
I think I wish I would have realized how much that he loved me, but that has to, I mean, he has to show, I would have asked him, Lord, show me what your love is really like. I wish I would have known that. I think something that you know when you're older, that I don't know if you can know it as much when you're younger, but just how faithful he is, because you have such a faithful track record with the Lord. I think I would have, if I had realized how faithful he was, I don't think I would have worried so much about a lot of things. Because I think it's easy to worry a lot. It's easy to go, what's going to happen? What about this? What if this doesn't happen? What, those kind of things. And, I have such a sense of, the Lord's got me. And so I think if I had known younger, or if I would have held on more to his absolute faithfulness. But see, sometimes I think if we haven't walked with the Lord a long time, we might think, well, he'll do all those things for other people, but not for me. He won't do it for me. He'll do it for you, and he'll do it for you, and he'll do it for you. But he won't do it for me because I'm a mess up, or because I'm, I did this, or I shouldn't have that, or I did, or you know what I mean. And so I think just to realize that here's what my mom told me about God. We didn't know a lot about God, but she told me that God had like a big chalkboard. And when you did something bad, he wrote it down. And then when you did something good, he wrote that down. And so the goal was always to have more on the good side than on the bad side. That's really very Islamic, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, and so I really thought that was true. Now here was the problem. I was very impulsive. So to me, it was always like, oh gosh, that was a bad mark. I'll get 2 good ones tomorrow. It's okay. I'll get some good ones. But that mindset that God is always keeping score. God is always keeping score. You can't please God. He expects all of this of you, and he's always keeping score. And it's like, oh gosh, that was a bad mark. That was a bad mark. We might not say it that way, but I think sometimes as Christians we operate like there's this kind of tally that's always going on, and it's so it makes so much pressure. So we kind of have this idea God's waiting to turn us into a grease spot. He's just waiting. He just wants to go ahead, mess up, because he's waiting. And so I think, it took a while for some of that to begin to work its way out of my life, and I wish I had done that sooner.
Okay, so then last one, what's the Lord teaching you right now, and how is he teaching you?
I think right now, this sounds so simplistic, but I think it's coming back around to thankfulness, and to, I think the Lord's really pressing me to be thankful always in a greater way. The other thing that I'm in the trenches with is about hearing God's voice. I just started out being able to hear from the Lord, and I feel like in the last while maybe I've gotten away from that some, just busy and not being thankful, and like having worship music on but not really worshiping. There's a difference. And so I think right now he's saying, come back, I want to talk to you. I want to speak with you. I want to, And, so, did that answer that?
Any other questions?
But you're not asking the question of what does she have, what's that question?
He did, she went over it after she.
Oh, he said I already answered it when I talked
ask.
about
Yeah, she did.
forgiveness.
They
and-
just mark each other in the
No,
box.
what would she say to them now? Like there's some question like what,
She just did.
What does she wish she would've learned,
no,
or
what,
would've known?
what, like there's a question, something about what do you have to
I
say
mean,
to
I
them?
read all 4 of them, so it's okay.
I didn't hear that one.
Yes, it's what do you wish you would have known as a younger Christian that you know now?
No, for them, if you could tell them anything that they should do or something.
It's the
Yeah, we
same
just
question.
worded it better now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, but I would say, here's what I'd say. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Because sometimes here's what you're going to think. Am I just making this up? How do I know this is really real? Or, well, God has let me down. And so I'm just going to, I'd say, don't give up. Press in, you know, just keep going. Don't believe the enemy's lie that you're not valuable. Don't believe the enemy's lie that you'll never measure up. Don't believe the enemy's lie that says this is hopeless, because the enemy's always going to try and get you to, you know, Eve, the enemy said to Eve, did God say? And that's always what the devil's going to do. Did God say? Did God really say he loves you? Did God really say he'll forgive everything? Did God really say? And so I guess I would say, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. So I answered it for you. Is that good?
Okay, is there any questions though?
Do you have any questions, Laura?
Me?
I think so. No?
Who's your favorite child?
I know. That's always up for debate, I'll tell you. Yeah. No questions, huh?
Feel cool.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question. Wait, so like, how many days did you plan for your marriage?
We decided on a, yeah, well, we decided on a Wednesday. Craig came up, and he,
Were you out of high school? Sorry, I just wanted.
yeah,
Okay.
I was in college. I went to Midlands University. I was working in the library, and he came up on a Wednesday, and he came into the library, and he said, hey, I'm leaving for the service in a week and a half. Do you want to get married this weekend? And I said, sure, sure, you bet. And originally he was in the Navy, and we knew that, but then he was going to change to the Air Force and be an air traffic controller. He thought some recruiter told him he could, so he was going to switch from the Navy to the Air Force, and so the Air Force said, okay, in a week and a half you have to go to boot camp. So that's what brought us up. So as soon as he heard from the Air Force, he came up to school and, do you want to get married? I said, oh, sure, you bet. So I went to my dorm, told the dorm house mother, I'm leaving, I'm getting married, cleared out my dorm room, packed it all in his car. We haven't talked to any adults yet. Packed it all up. We went to tell his family first, because we thought they might be a little upset. So we went and told them, and they didn't say a word. I mean, they just stared at us. They didn't even say anything. We found out later that they thought I was pregnant, so they didn't want to say anything because that would be embarrassing, so they were just going to ignore that whole part and just let us get married, which wasn't true. It was not true. Anyway, and then we went to tell my dad, and I thought my dad would be happy because he really liked Craig. And so I walked in and he said, "What are you doing here? It's the middle of the week." And I said, "Oh, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Bad news, I quit college. And I was the first one in my family to go to college. I had a scholarship, and he really was unhappy. And I said, but the good news, I'm getting married this weekend." Wow, he just went ballistic. He was so, and I was like, well, okay, don't ever do this, all right? Don't ever do this. I said, you can't tell me what to do, and I will run away and get married if you will sign for it. Well, I didn't know he had to sign at that point, so. Anyway, so he was really upset. So I called my brother who was married, not the prisoner, but the other one. And I said, you need to come over here. And he said, why? And I said, Dad is so upset, you have to come and calm him down. And he said, why is he so upset? And I said, well, Craig and I are getting married this weekend, and he is just freaking out. My brother just went, so Craig and I thought, ooh, let's get out of here. And so we went to Burger King and had a Whopper. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So then we went to the priest. We had to go to the priest. He was Catholic. I was nothing. And he asked us questions, but he asked us separately. And we gave way different answers, like, how long have you known one another? I'm a girl. I think you've known one another, that we've been in love. So I said 9 months. Well, he's a guy. And so he thinks, well, yeah, I think 2nd grade, 9 years. You know, our answers were so different. So the priest called Craig's mother and said, they are not ready to get married. So they need to wait till Monday. So we got married on a Monday in January. Isn't that crazy? I'm thinking there must have been a ball game on.
Or something.